boy. All right. We need to finish our Purdue dialogue a little bit, and then we'll expand a little broader. So, look, they lose twice to the rival. No Purdue fan is happy to hear that. I saw a lot of on the timeline stuff last night from Purdue fans that was just like, guys, recalibrate. We need to remember we're going to be the outright conference champions regardless. I get that, but you can't tell me this one didn't sting, and you can't tell me you're not worried about this team right now. They've lost 4 of their last 6 games. Their best win going back an entire month at this point was a home win against Michigan State. Like, there's not a ton of great opportunities in this conference, and Purdue has not passed the test against them. Is it fair to be that concerned about them, Pat, or are you just shrugging it off and saying they'll get right for March?
No, it's fair. I mean, what Jalen Hood-Schifino did to that defense. I mean, there was it was just a matter of he's getting the looks that he wants defensively. Just is a shot going in or out. No impact from what anybody else is doing. And we know that when you get into the tournament, you match up against somebody that has a dynamic guard that can go get a bucket. They cause a lot of problems, a lot of issues. It's just going to be a matter of, and Edey, what did he end up finishing with that game? Wasn't his best performance. I mean, a good one, 26 and 16, but 8 of 17 shooting. Zach's so efficient. He's shooting well over 50% on the season this year. It's just it's interesting to see the struggle there a little bit from the guards after the response was made. Braden Smith struggled, and there's a criticism that's being taken. Oh, they're mid-major guards. They're not going to be enough to help this Purdue team. Then there was a response from, I can't remember who they ended up beating, but Braden came away with like 28 points that game. And then all of a sudden you have from him 2 of 11, 0 for 3 from the 3-point line, 6 points. It's just, where is the consistency on the defensive side is what I worry a little bit more so, because when Zach's such a great passer, teams are striving to play him one-on-one, which I'm not going to say that's the answer. I don't know what the answer is, doubling because he's a great passer out, but making it really hard. It's really interesting when you can make a guard feel as though they're trying to get into the post. If you can defend them, the big, for 5 seconds and make it really difficult to make that pass, they're not going to throw it in. I know that very well from experience.
Yeah,
very, very well from experience. So someone else, it's not bad to have a loss like this, but right now, you'd rather have it now and learn from it before going into March. But they've got some work to do. That's why I love this season. There's no one team that's so dominant, even though Purdue has the most dominant player in college basketball. It just goes to show it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to make the Final Four.
Yeah, I do think I think there's 2 ways that you have to look at this, right? And there's a lot of context involved here. We cannot forget that this team beat Marquette, they beat Gonzaga, they beat Duke, and they beat a good West Virginia team, even though their record doesn't necessarily show it, in the non-conference, right? They were really, really good in the non-conference, okay? I know you're giving me that look, Greg. And you also have to remember that of their 13 Big Ten wins, 8 of them have come against teams at the bottom of the league. So I think it is fair to say that Purdue has climbed up to like number 1 and climbed up to this point where we thought that they were the clear-cut best team in the country because they were able to feast on some lesser competition, while also saying that this team is not as bad as the one that has lost 4 out of their last 6, right? I think they just hit their bump in the road. Every team this year has hit a bump in the road at some point. They just happen to hit their bump of the road in February. The question is, can they get this thing figured out? We saw UConn is a great example, right? They hit their bump in the road in January. They had some tough road games. They lost at home to St. John's. They gave one away at Seton Hall, and they've kind of figured it out. So the question is there enough time for Matt Painter to get this group right? And I think it's also fair to point out, Pat, you can attest to this. When you're a freshman and you're a guard and you're playing the minutes that Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith are playing, like, you get to the end of the season and you're more physically worn down than I think that you have ever been in your life. So I do think that there is an element of these kids were playing a little bit above their head, and now they've kind of hit that wall. I know Fletcher Loyer has been carrying an injury. Matt Painter told us that when we were in Indiana, but I think that they've kind of come back to the mean, right?
Purdue, well, I completely agree with you, Rob, because it's one, scouting, and then other teams are just going to embrace. Oh, I'm not letting a freshman show me up type mindset.
Yeah, there's a level of pride, man.
Yeah,
there's a
for
bunch
sure.
of vets in that Big Ten league. Like Braden Smith, he was a 189th recruit. No, fuck that. He didn't get by me.
This-
I would
this-
100% buy the Jalen Hood-Schifino saying that. I ain't letting a freshman touch me. And they're like, dude, you're also a freshman, Jalen. Like, come on.
No, I do think that they've kind of found their level, right? Like Water finds its level, Purdue found its level. Like they're more of a 2 seed than a 1 seed. They're still very, very, very good, but they're not.
But okay, here's my problem and why I'm making ugly faces at you as you go on this rampage. Number one, in general, I don't love, like, I hear your point about you hit the roadblock. How do you get over it? Every team goes through a dry spell, whatever. I don't like teams that looked so dominant in November and then just haven't been that team in 4 months since. And like
UConn.
Yeah, right. Like there's another one, right? The other thing is in that dominant stretch, Rob, like, okay, West Virginia, the metrics love them, fine. Duke is not Duke. That's not some awesome win. We jolted Purdue up to number 1 in the country because we thought Gonzaga was a top 5 team in the country and we thought Duke was a top 10 team in the country. Now it's very clear that neither of those are true. So
Counterpoint, no one paid attention to the win over Marquette, and Marquette is going to be the outright Big East champion. So like, I hear what you're saying, but it kind of, I don't,
but also at Mackey Arena, which you just said is one of the toughest places to play.
Yeah.
Like
all I'm saying is like Purdue could very well lose like in the first weekend. They could get picked off by a 7 seed. That would not surprise me at all. But I'm not saying that they're like invincible. I'm just saying this is a really good team that was playing above their head for a while, that had us all believing that they were the clear-cut best team in the country, and they probably weren't. They are like a top 10-ish kind of a team that can get beat in the second round, and no one would really be that surprised by it, which is like what most teams in the 6 to 8 range in the polls and all the metrics, like that's generally what you expect. So